Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tiffany Thomas with the Oracle Applications and Technologies Users Group. Welcome to the OATUG Cloud eLearning series titled Cloud Migration Strategies, a panel discussion. Before we get started, I would like to go over a couple housekeeping items. You'll be on mute throughout the presentation. However, if you would like to ask a question, please type it into the question box in your control panel at any time. I'll read the questions back throughout the presentation to allow the panelists the opportunity to respond. We are recording this session and it will be available on the OATUG website later today. I would like to now turn it over to one of your panelists for today, Tom Semke, to introduce the rest of the panelists. Take it away, Tom.
Thanks, Tiffany. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great summer so far. As Tiffany said, this is the first in several sessions that we're going to have as part of the OATUG. This session is sponsored jointly by the Multinational Special Interest Group, of which I am the co-chair, along with Hans Colby, who will be doing a session later on in the series, as well as some other panelists. We will be doing a series of sessions over the next 6 weeks leading up to Oracle Open World. Certainly hope to see everyone that is on the webinar out at Open World. Our contact information will be made available after this session, so that if you do have additional questions that you did not get answered or did not get to answer, get to ask, you will be able to do so, and we will get back to you. So our agenda is we're going to talk about what options right for you with regard to cloud. We have SaaS, IaaS, or integration as a service, PaaS, or platform as a service, public cloud, private cloud, cloud on-premise. And we're going to talk with our panel of experts about what it could mean to your organization and what your organization should do to start planning its cloud strategy. My name is Tom Simkis. I'll be your moderator. I am from Creel Consulting. We are a Mid-Atlantic-based Oracle Application Systems integrator. I have been doing this as a consultant for the better part of 23 years, primarily focused on EBS and cloud. Been presenting with the OATUG, I think, for probably 20 of those 23 years. And I am an Oracle ACE, which is a designation that you get from Oracle if you do a lot of speaking. So fortunately, I get to do that quite a bit. With us, we're supposed to have Sridhar. I do not know that Sridhar made it today. I think he might have had an issue come up. Sridhar, just to check to make sure you did not sign on. I did not think he was going to be able to make it. Also absent today, unfortunately, is Lee Briggs. Lee Briggs is one of my co-consultants here at Creel Consulting. He is also a fellow ACE. Lee got called away at the last minute for a client emergency, so I will cover his components. But next, we have Mani Kumar Manda of Rhapsody. Mani, you want to give yourself a brief introduction and background?
Thanks, Tom. This is Mani Manda. I work for Rhapsody Technologies. I've been working in implementing Oracle applications for more than 25 years, and of course, as Oracle started the cloud journey, implementing Oracle Cloud solutions since then. We also specialize in the areas of master data management, data quality, and data governance, and MDM. Is one good opportunity to begin your cloud journey. We can talk about it later.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That brings us to Elisa Johnston. You want to give yourself an introduction, Elisa?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elisa Johnson. I'm the VP of Applications at KEST. I've started out my career as a software engineer about 30 years ago and have been in the Oracle space more on the functional side for about 15 years. KEST is a Oracle Platinum partner and has done quite a bit of work in not just ERP Cloud, but also in lifting and shifting EBS workloads into Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So I'm happy to be with you guys today and talking about our cloud options.
Thank you, Lisa. And last but not least, that brings us to Tom Conley. Tom Conley is a partner in Tip Top Consulting. Tom, you want to let everyone know your background and a brief introduction, please?
Sure. Thank you again for inviting me. Tip Top is a cloud advisory and implementation services firm. Personally, I am a techie at heart and professional background. Like the other panelists here, longtime Oracle consultant, longer than I care to admit. And I'm essentially the guy customers call when they want to develop a roadmap to the cloud. What, where, when, how, and why. Back to you, Tom.
Okay, great. I appreciate it. So thanks everyone for joining. Folks that are listening, I think you will get a lot of information from today's session. As Tiffany mentioned, unlike some of these webinars where they hold questions till the end, we really do want this to be interactive. So if one of our panelists or experts says something or does not say something and you'd like some clarification added, please go ahead and type it into the chat box, and Tiffany will read your question and we will address it accordingly. So what we have here is a brief history of the cloud. So what is the cloud, and where did it start? And contrary to people's popular opinions, the cloud's been around for quite a while. I borrowed some of the content from this slide from a Salesforce slide, and so I found it very helpful in terms of the references at the bottom left of the screen. So John McCarthy introduced mainframe computing in the 60s. And he had this idea that being able to share computing across multiple users would be possible, and the mainframe was kind of born from that. The next major step that happened was something in 1959 by J.C.R. Lickler, and he created this, or had this idea for what he called the galactic network, and the full name for it was called the Intergalactic Network, and I imagine he was Star Trek. But what that is, that led to something called ARPANET, which was the first kind of way of communicating across networks, and it really led to the idea of multiple networks. VM software was launched in the 70s, believe it or not. I myself use virtual machine from Oracle, and I've been using it for a number of years, but it actually was launched a long time ago, and the main idea behind VMware is you could run multiple operations at the same time. So that was certainly a big deal. The term cloud computing was deployed in 1997 by Professor Ramath Chellapala, and from there it's just kind of grown. Larry Ellison and Oracle released NCA 10.7 in 1999, and I remember Larry Ellison was at the Philadelphia Oracle Applications User Group at the time. Before they had Collaborate, the Oracle Applications User Group used to have a spring and a fall conference. And Larry was in Philadelphia, and he kind of chastised Oracle and himself for allowing them to develop Smart Client and have forms installed on individual machines and kind of go away from a shared environment. They rectified that with NCA, which allowed for the forms to run on the application server, and you could download only the forms you need, and they no longer needed to be installed on your individual computer. 2006, we had Amazon. They launched Elastic Compute Cloud and simple service. Amazon and Microsoft are really the undisputed leaders in cloud right now. They have the majority of the market. Oracle is certainly doing its best to combat that. 2014, Oracle released HCM Cloud 8. And that really was Oracle's first true foray into a SaaS solution. Not necessarily cloud from a technology perspective, but technology SaaS, software as a service. Since that time, Oracle has, of course, released CX Cloud. CX and HCM have been around the longest of the Oracle SaaS applications. They released ERP in 2015. I was fortunate enough to partner with a couple folks and was on a few of those early Oracle ERP implementations. And certainly the product has enhanced quite frequently since then. So the next two slides talk about the two different options, and what I'd like to do is, Tom Conley, if you could kind of talk us through these different options and what they mean and how they've kind of expanded, it would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. And again, questions are welcome. So taking a look at the technology stack, or pyramid in this example, start at the bottom with the infrastructure layer. In cloud terminology, that would be infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. When we talk infrastructure, most people think of the underlying computing servers, along with server memory, data storage. But this layer also includes the networking components necessary to access these resources. And finally, the brick and mortar data centers, which require reliable, redundant power, HVAC, internet connectivity, and physical security from human and non-human threats, i.e. acts of God, hurricane, earthquake, and fire, all benefits of moving to a cloud architecture. In summary, the IaaS layer includes 5 key elements. You click next. Compute, memory, storage, network, and physical data center. 2 quick points here. First, it's becoming clear that developing a state-of-the-art data center yourself is no small task, which is by far the biggest driver pushing companies to a mature public cloud service provider. And second, the cloud providers are now able to deliver individual components and fractional or micro cloud services, allowing customers to purchase just what they need from a given provider and engineer multi-cloud or hybrid cloud solutions with a mix of cloud services and on-premise components working in unison, which is pretty cool. Next, let's mix it up and go out of order. Sorry, not next slide.
Oh.
Okay. Anyhow, jump to the top of the pyramid about SaaS. While IaaS is the largest and fastest growing component, software as a service is the most recognizable. The reason for this is simple. The software application is what the end users interact with. Also, without useful software applications, the other layers are simply solutions looking for a problem. Now, on the surface, SaaS applications are nothing new. Fundamentally, someone is still writing software to meet a business need. ERP, human capital management, Salesforce, etc. But if we dig deeper, there are 5 key differences between SaaS and classic on-prem applications. First, the financial folks prefer SaaS as these applications are offered on a monthly pay-as-you-go model, shifting cost from large capital expense to a monthly operating expense. Second, in the SaaS world, customizations are not allowed. Gone are the days we could ask a developer to make a change to a screen or adjust a payroll calculation to meet your business requirement or management whim. Instead, the SaaS applications are more configurable and employ a consistent model for extending the applications via well-defined web service hooks, such that any custom code is separated from the base product, which prevents the dreaded version lock. Third, the SaaS applications are deployed in a single code set for all customers. This allows the software provider to spend less resources supporting older versions and more time focusing on innovative new features, which can now be rolled out to all customers on a regular and more frequent basis. Number 4, the fourth aspect is these applications are now, quote unquote, professionally managed. What I mean by that is that customers no longer need to manage infrastructure, database, application code, or middleware components. This is all now handled by the software manufacturer. And this brings me to my last item, the 5th item. These SaaS applications are what we call cloud native, built to leverage the other layers of the cloud model, allowing these applications to take advantage of ongoing innovations in the other layers, whatever they may be in the future. Whether that's things like in-memory database, hyperscalability, open interfaces, or multi-factor security techniques to avoid a nasty data breach with sensitive customer information. Sorry, I just lost my notes. So rounding out the 3 layers of our pyramid is the middleware component, aka platform as a service. As the name suggests, these services sit in the middle, leveraging cloud infrastructure and in many cases providing capabilities to the higher level software applications, notably both SaaS and on-premise applications. Common PaaS services include things like database services, HTTP web services, workflow, analytics, and integration services, just to name a few. So there you have it. With these 3 cloud options, customers are able to address just about everything as a service.
Thanks, Tom. That was a really good overview. Anybody have any questions on 3 options and the 3 flavors that Tom covered before we move on to our next panelist?
We don't have a question particular to that. I don't know if you guys will touch on this a little later, but the question is, how would an organization on EBS R12 financials plan the journey to ERP cloud?
So EBS to cloud. So I think, Alyssa, we've got your slide was next, which is about public cloud versus private cloud. But I know that Kest does quite a bit of that work. Do you want to chime in on that? And then maybe we can have Manny.
Sure. So it's interesting. Tom kind of referred to it initially in the introduction in terms of making a cloud roadmap. So I think it's important to understand that, you know, EBS is a software product. ERP Cloud is a completely different software product. So if you're migrating from on-premise to the SaaS application, that is what we would refer to, that's a re-implementation, right? You're really setting up a brand new software product, which is ERP Cloud. That's one of the options that you have, and that's kind of what it's one of the options we're talking about today. The other option is to take your e-business suite application, the software, and move it to infrastructure as a service. And so that you would be able to just, you know, your users would, really for your users, it would be transparent. They wouldn't know, you know, one day they're on, you know, on-premise operating, and the next day, once you do, or over the weekend, when you migrate that up into the cloud, the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, all of the look and feel is the same, the processing is the same, your customizations are the same. And so that's another option of a cloud roadmap. But if you're specifically asking about eBusiness Suite on-premise to ERP Cloud, that is, you know, a re-implementation, and just as with any other re-implementation, you would be, you know, doing data conversions, setting up new configurations, etc. You do have a little bit of an advantage because a lot of the, you know, ERP Cloud is developed by Oracle, just like EBS was, and so there's similarities there, and so that's good from an underlying, you know, data model, but it, you know, it is an implementation.
Thanks, Alicia. This is Tom Simpkins. I would normally have Lee Briggs chime in for me at this point, but unfortunately, as I said, he was called away. So I'll give a 30-second response to that answer, and then we'll talk about public cloud versus private cloud. So when you're making your considerations, I guess the first thing I would recommend you do is understand why you're making the move, and make sure that all the functionality that you have in eBusiness Suite is either available in cloud out of the box or able to be extended using one of the PaaS services. I can tell you that, you know, having done this for a while, my answer to those folks that are moving from EBS to cloud today is substantially better than it was, you know, even 2 or 3 years ago. The things that you can do in PaaS to make up for missing functionality in cloud, and there's not a lot. Oracle does a spectacular job of updating the cloud on a regular basis and really making the functionality come forward, but there are some holes still, and your ability to fill those holes with PaaS is really, really remarkable, and it just continues to get better. So with that, Alicia, if you could just give us, you know, a layman's explanation of what is the public cloud versus the private cloud.
Sure. So in terms of the difference between public cloud and versus private cloud, one of the offerings that Oracle has, which is beneficial, I think, to the users, is that they have a public cloud offering in terms of the infrastructure. Again, we're talking about Oracle Cloud infrastructure, and that sits in data centers that are owned and managed by Oracle, and they manage that infrastructure. They have several locations here, really here in the United States, but also across the world. And that is where, you know, they have machines set up and multiple customers in those data centers, and they manage. One of the questions we often get, okay, is once we move to the Oracle Public Cloud, do they manage everything? And the answer to that is no. That's when you go to the SaaS model. If you're going to the public cloud, the customer is still going to be responsible for everything from the operating system up the stack. So databases, applications, middleware, and Oracle is going to be responsible for right at the operating system down, the storage, the network, etc. And so would be applying the hardware, anything associated with that, they would be responsible for. And so the public cloud, again, is a subscription model, just like the other offerings that were talked about. Oracle also has what's called Cloud at Customer, and it's still the same model, but the machines, the hardware, is actually sitting at your facility, right? So it's not at the Oracle data center, but they still would manage. The management would still be similar to being in the Oracle data center. That just is to provide, again, an additional level of security. Some companies would require that, and you still have the cloud capabilities, but it would be, again, the hardware would be, at your facility.
Okay, thanks for that, Alicia. I appreciate that. That was extremely helpful. Same drill as before. So if there are any questions about public cloud versus private cloud, or something that we have not yet addressed, even if we may address it on a future slide, this is a great time to have your voice be heard. Any questions, Tiffany?
Yes, there's some questions that are coming in. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think are the key considerations to move to the cloud?
Yeah, so again, I would just chime in here. I think you need to understand, first of all, which cloud option are you talking about, right? So when we at KEST we go in and do an assessment, that's one of our first questions, right? Is are you looking to move to a SaaS as a solution? Do you need to just take your EBS and move it up to infrastructure as a service? One of the I think kind of drivers around that is the level of customization. Now there is an advantage to moving to software as a service or ERP cloud, in that you can eliminate those customizations, or you can develop applications on platform as a service to support whatever functionality those customizations were putting in place. But for me, that's one of the key drivers, is because it makes it a bigger project, because if you're heavily customized in EBS, then OCI, or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, might be a better solution for you, because then you can still retain the capabilities that you have for EBS. I think you also have to look at, again, the business drivers. I always take a look at that in terms of any move, and then lay out the roadmap. It's not a point in time, it's a journey, and that's a really important, I think, part of understanding that.
Yeah, this is Mani.
I was just going to say, if you could give us some perspective on this, I'd appreciate it. Mani?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So, again, the other key consideration is that, what's happening in your company at this point in time that requires you to look at the change is very important. Is your business growing significantly and your current system is not able to handle it in terms of performance? Definitely, as Alyssa mentioned, infrastructure as a service may be something that you want to look into, so that you can scale the implementation very quickly and probably at a lower uptake of your expenditure mostly. And most of the expenditure is more of an operating expense than a capex, as in the intro Tom has mentioned. But on the other hand, you acquired companies, or you're looking at a new capabilities that you currently do not have, then that's when you're looking at cloud options and how to implement those cloud options in conjunction with what you already have today, which is kind of a little bit of more hybrid environment. Perhaps you're looking at on-prem, cloud, public cloud, etc. But then if you're looking at a revamping and you want to simplify your business processes, assuming that you are highly customized processes today that is inhibiting growth of your company, then what is more important is to look at your SaaS options and trying to simplify the process, because in cloud there is no customization. So now you want to adapt your business processes to best practices that are already embedded into these cloud applications, and you simplify your business process. And once you move on to the cloud applications, it becomes easier to not only add more capabilities within the cloud space, but also scale it up as your demand changes, and uptake of any new functionalities released by these cloud vendors as they automatically push to you on a certain periodic basis. So you would benefit in many fold.
Okay, thanks for that answer. I appreciate that perspective, and that actually goes well. So the next question that we kind of want to discuss was how my company can start its cloud journey. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have Manny, I'd love to get your thoughts on this first, and then if we could, Tom Conley, if you could follow Manny and give him just some perspective as your company's role as a cloud mapping expert. So Manny, you want to give us your thoughts on this one?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. Again, as I said, to add on to that, right, first thing is that, where does your organization needs help? If everything is going well, then you have no problems or challenges, you just want to explore the cloud journey, you may not necessarily be ready because, again, it takes some time and effort. But if you're, that is not the case for most of the companies, because most companies have some challenges, one form or other, and they want to grow, and growth oftentimes is inhibited by the lack of ability to make changes to your current environments, which brings you back into the, where to start the journey. And step one I would look at is that, what are your pain points? Pain points in the sense that, on a simplistic level, you may look at that, what can I do to increase the performance in my business processes, which could be making more manual process into automation. Maybe you want to start with the, on a simplistic level, say robotic process automation, but that is at the very simplistic level. Other could be on the performance perspective, moving to infrastructure as a service, and on the applications perspective, adding capabilities that you may not have today. Say, for example, you are having challenges on the master data side, you may want to consider cloud SaaS offerings from Oracle, like whether it's a supplier cloud with the supplier portal, where you could let your suppliers manage the data both for supplier as well as product information. Or your challenges on the financial side and you're having difficulty in consolidations perspective across multiple business units, or you have acquired few companies, then you may want to look into both the financial cloud and EPM cloud, or start with EPM cloud if the consolidation is the major issue, and trying to bring in the easily integrate your on-prem applications to this EPM cloud, and so that you could consolidate and enhance your capabilities for your business. And so there are different use cases. So the most important thing is, what is the most important use case that you want to address in the cloud platform, whether it is on the infrastructure end, whether it's on the platform end, or whether it's on the software as a service, basically. These are the areas that you want to look at to begin your journey.
Okay. Tom, would you like to give your perspective on that, please?
Sure. I always say what comes first is the business. Always start with business drivers. Even an infrastructure project should be, and usually is, driven by a business need. Could be gaps in needed capability within the current apps and the way they're configured. Could be a need for greater agility, speed to respond to market forces or innovation. Could be a need to limit or manage risk, i.e. moving to public cloud where you outsource the data management and kind of security of that sensitive confidential information. So all roads start with the business drivers. Once you have a handle on that, the really clearly next step is to develop a plan, considering things like where to start amongst those options, IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, and looking at the functional objects and applications that you want to map and trying to prioritize those. So develop that plan. Third and last, I would say, is if at all possible, start slow. Crawl, walk, run, some folks say. Start with a prototype. Don't necessarily bet the whole enterprise, bet the farm, if you will, in one big bang if it can be avoided. Sometimes it's necessary, but if at all possible, start slow and start to get some experience at whichever layer of the cloud makes the most sense.
Okay, thanks for that, Tom. I appreciate that. Same drill, Tiffany. Anyone have any questions related to their journey or something else that we should address before we move on to the next question?
Yes, we have actually a couple questions. So how is the private cloud different from on-prem environments? And then what are the main differences between IaaS and PaaS?
Let's do the first one first. So the main difference between public cloud and private cloud. Alicia, you had addressed that one earlier, but you want to take another stab at it for this particular listener?
Yeah, so I think the question is, how's the private cloud different from an on-premise environment? The main difference is that again, you're still subscribing to the service, and so Oracle owns that hardware and is responsible for the same things that they're responsible for if it was in their own data center. So from that perspective, you're still putting a subscription model in place. And so that's different than having your own on-premise environment where you have to purchase the hardware, you have to stand it up. They're gonna bring that and put that in your at your location. But in terms of the functionality of what you're subscribing to, it's still going to be the same as if it was in the Oracle data center. And then the main differences between IaaS and PaaS, well, they're really different services, right? So if you think about it, I'll have an analogy between if you were on premise, right? So the infrastructure piece, is the storage, the servers, the database, the operating system, and then the platform is really that middleware component. So that's where the integrations live. That's where OBIEE would be, where really all your BI type applications, the Java, that's in the platform space. And then again, the applications are above all of that. That's all the infrastructure, and the platform are supporting the software, the applications. And so that's really the difference between platform. And so any development that you're doing, the code for applications outside of SaaS would be done in the platform as well and deployed in there.
Okay, hopefully that answers that question, and we'll have a chance to circle back on some of these on the summary slides that are to come. Thanks, Alicia, I appreciate that. And Manny, thank you for kicking us off on how a company can start its cloud journey. Next question we have is, what considerations should we take into account when looking at Cloud ERP? I'm actually going to kick this one off. I'm going to kind of key off some of the things that Alicia said. If you're looking at a net new implementation, and when I say Cloud ERP at this point, I'm really referring to the Oracle Cloud ERP because that is my area of expertise. If it's net new and you're running on a tier 2 software package, or maybe nothing at all, you really want to make sure that it's got the features and functions that your organization needs. Oracle certainly does a lot of things exceedingly well: multi-currency, multi-ledger, multi-accounting, reporting. Those are areas that Oracle does probably better than anybody else. If you're looking at manufacturing and distribution, Oracle's got some wonderful solutions there as well. So you really want to look at functionality first. Does it have what we need? If you're looking at migrating from an on-premise application, something like JD Edwards, which is kind of old and outdated, or eBusiness Suite, which is still robust, but certainly is not nearly as modern or as up-to-date as the Oracle Cloud ERP. Alicia kind of said it earlier, it is a net new implementation. So while you certainly can lift and shift some of your functionality and some of your features, it is an implementation. You're going to have conversions. You're going to have testing. You're going to have documentation, all of those good things that go with a proper ERP implementation. So why are you looking to do it? And make sure that you can make the business case so that when you're asked why we did it, it should be more of an answer than, because everyone else is going to cloud. So those are some initial thoughts. I'd like to ask the panel, starting with Manny, and then we'll go to Alicia, if they've got any strong, brief thoughts that they could say what should be considered when going to look at ERP cloud.
Yeah, again, key thing is, right, trying to determine, are you going to go to full-blown cloud replacement of your existing applications, or you want to strategically choose some of the areas, preferably areas where your current solutions are weaker, and pick a cloud-based application. Now, the more you go into a larger application like Oracle, the lesser you will have the integration effort, because within the cloud application, they are already pre-integrated there. Or if you're going with a fewer set of applications in the cloud, still retaining many applications in the your on-prem environment, then you have to build integrations, and you're probably looking at not only SaaS applications but also platform as a service to build and manage these integrations within the cloud environment. A lot of customers actually sometimes go with that option if their existing cloud integration platform is not robust, or they want a more cloud-based one. There are few companies which also will continue with their existing integration platforms even after moving on to the considering the cloud SaaS, new SaaS applications. If you're doing the full-fledged replacement of the cloud applications, some of the important things to keep in mind is that, as Tom mentioned already, breadth of the functionality into the cloud Oracle applications, that you want to take a look into that. And as cloud is evolving, there may be features that you have today, assuming that, let's say, you have on-prem Oracle EBS, you may not necessarily see in the cloud, but there are many more features you see in the cloud that you don't have in the A-Business Suite. So trying to understand what you get out of this Oracle cloud applications and where the functionality gaps are, and how you want to overcome this, preferably not necessarily trying to find alternatives to those, rather restructuring your business process so that you could adapt to what Oracle is offering. The cloud applications would be one of the best paths to consider in terms of looking to migrate to the cloud applications.
Okay, that's I appreciate that. That's certainly a good point of view. Alicia, anything quick that Manny may not have hit, or I didn't cover appropriately?
Yes, I'll just add one area again. I think that can't be overlooked when this is the integration piece, right? So anytime if you decide to go to Cloud ERP, please start considering that along with the implementation strategy, because we know that these ERP applications aren't standalone. They have to integrate to other applications, and so having a strategy around that and the tools that you're going to use to facilitate that integration are really key. So just again, make sure that you have that in place. And then one more thing, there's lots of opportunity to get demos of these applications, and that's another good first step to understanding if it's going to make sense for your business to move to a cloud application.
Okay, thanks for that.
That's an excellent point. In terms of asking for the demos, that gives them a window into what they can expect.
Yep, that's a great point. Yeah, I can't stress demos enough. It's certainly a big ask for a company, but if you're committed and attending the demo and giving the demo, so it's commitment on both parties. I think that's an excellent point that you both raised. So thank you for that. So we have our last question that we're going to cover today on this panel, which is based on prior experiences. Can you discuss some challenges in moving to the cloud? And this is really a general one about from my experts and my users about things that you have seen in your professional careers about moving customers to the cloud. I'd love to start with Tom Connell on this one and get his point of view, and then we'll go with Monty and then with Alicia. Okay?
Sure, absolutely. Now we got to think of. Oh yeah, here we go. First is the skills gap. The cloud apps and the cloud in general is kind of a new mindset. It's a new set of skills. Moving away from maybe understanding legacy proprietary Oracle technologies and to open systems that, quite frankly, are skills that are transferable across enterprise cloud systems everywhere, not just Oracle. So Java, web services, things like that. But you got to bridge the skills gap, and you might have a workforce that is ingrained in the old technology and is not necessarily embracing the new. So that's one of the big challenges. Two more I have here. I think Elisa mentioned the integrations. That's, again, also a little bit of a mindset shift, where folks in the past were very insular focused on what their organization needed and developing interfaces within their enterprise. Now it really is a brave new world where you're interacting, engaging with customers and an extended trading community overall. And everybody's got to be willing to communicate in an effective way, and that goes back to those standard web technologies Java Web Services, REST-based web services, JSON messaging. I've got lots of acronyms for the techies that care, but the bottom line is that they're consistent, whether it's Workday, Salesforce, NetSuite, Oracle Cloud ERP. And in fact, the legacy applications are also now adopting those same technologies. So integration's key. The last one I'll leave you with, though, is more of a human element, which is letting go. The cloud ultimately is an outsourcing paradigm. It really is about letting things that your organization has managed and kept a finger on for years, directly, and letting them go to an outsourced provider who can do it better, faster, cheaper. Kind of like letting your kids go to college. It's a little bit tough, but once you do, it's a great experience. Those are the big challenges.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Melissa, you want to give us your perspective?
Yes, I think all this kind of can apply across the board, but some in cloud applications are more mature than others. And then from an Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, again, if you think about how long EBS has been around, if we have a lot of customers or a lot of attendees that are from the EBS space or PeopleSoft, I mean, those applications have been around for a long time, right? So they're much more mature, and so I think that's an important thing to go into, is that the innovation is very fast in this area, but you do have to have a kind of a mindset that you're on the cutting edge, right? So that's a little bit different than going into a space where, again, the application has been around for 25 years. A lot of benefit for that, to do that, to be on that cutting edge. But again, it has to, I think, the executives have to understand that, and that that's going to be, part of the implementation and then post upgrades, post migration support process. I think the other thing again is just don't give up in terms of getting to the finish line. I know that there's been some, companies that have been discouraged about moving, but it can be done. There's also a lot of companies out there that are successfully running all of those products that we've talked about: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and applications or software as a service. And it can be transforming to your company, and so kind of keep that in mind. Again, we talked already about business drivers at the beginning, but keep those in mind all along the way, so that can keep your kind of your perspective where it needs to be, and say, okay, our business is going to be in such a better place once we get there and once we get stable, and so that can give you kind of the drive to keep going.
Yeah, this is Mani here. I'd like to add a different perspective to to this. I think both of you answered a lot of important things when it's looking into the cloud side of it. But more in terms of the actual implementation itself, the few things to keep in mind is, your implementation approach to the cloud. Agile being the mantra of today, your initial uptake may be that I would like to go with the Agile implementation. And that would work very well as long as you are focused on process side of it. If you're trying to still, look into the requirements angle and trying to do Agile, that may impact your project. And I've been part of, and I've heard of many projects where they started as Agile with user stories approach only to fall back to the old traditional requirements approach. So be careful, be process focused if you want to be successful with Agile implementation. The other thing is that cloud is geared for a faster implementation timeframes than the traditional on-prem applications. What that means is you have to be ready. You have to be ready. You have to clean your house. What that means is, again, conversion is an important factor, and all cloud applications give you both in terms of a real-time integration or conversion perspective, file-based import capabilities, which are, can be simply easily configured to match the data that you extract from your legacy applications. So what you want to do is that because this is fast-paced implementation, thinking about cleaning up your house, and what data you want to bring in, how much data you want to bring in is not something you can wait until the last minute. That is something that you need to start thinking about from the day one of your project, basically what you want to do. So that's a very important aspect of the data perspective. The third thing is that if you're moving from Oracle EBS, such a large ERP application to a ERP, Oracle Cloud application, a lot of the data what you have is what you're going to move forward. Perhaps probably getting rid of some data that pertains to customization. Say you'll be moving away from customization, which is simpler. But if you are a mid-size or small ERP solution today and you're moving to Oracle Cloud, one of the things that impacts you significantly is that your existing application may have limited capabilities or limited attributes related to a certain business process. As you move to Oracle Cloud, it is highly flexible and has a lot of attributes that you may needed to configure for which you don't have the data in today's application. So you want to start thinking about that from day one. You may have to make new policies in order to set some default thresholds for these data elements that you currently do not have in your current application. So don't ignore that. That is a very important aspect. It's not that implementation company will configure and will tell you what they need, but from the business end that you need to be thinking about, how do I want this kind of thing. For example, what if you're looking at a procurement perspective as an example, right? What happens? Your current system may not deal with what do you call your PO receipt thresholds, when to accept the shipment versus when not to accept kind of thing. And that is a new flexibility you have in the cloud application. Now you need to decide how do you want to set these parameters. Is it one universal parameter that you want to control all shipments from all vendors, or you want to go by vendor specific? How do you want to address those? And this is just a simple example, but there are many more things for you to consider in that perspective. The next thing is
that. So I apologize, man. We've got a couple more questions we have to try to get to. So sure, thank you for that was phenomenal. So very detailed answer. So we had a number of experts who said that joined us for this today. So I wanted to thank the end users and the consultants that we have on the panel. And I do think this was interesting. And as I said at the beginning of this, we have a number of these coming up. Slantra Systems was one of our partners. So Hans Colby's company, he's my co-chair on the multinational SIG. Lee Briggs is the chair of the ADI SIG, which was also a co-sponsor of this. And Mohan Iyer is the chair of the General Ledger SIG. Both of those folks will be on future sessions in the coming weeks. Thank you to Alicia Johnson from Kest and Tom Conley from Tip Top. And of course, thank you from Manny Manda from Rhapsody Consulting. Our contact information is on the screen. I'm going to leave this up for just a second so folks can write it down, and then we have the next sessions coming up. Well, I'm giving folks a second to take this information down should they want to reach out to an individual. They can also do that through the OATUG. Tiffany, any additional questions that have come in since our prior one?
Yes, we have a couple questions. The first question is, what about using the SOAR program to migrate your current EBS to the cloud?
So the SOAR program, I'll kick this off and then I'll open it up to the team. I have not had personal experience with it. The SOAR program is from Oracle. It is meant to take your configurations and data from EBS directly into the cloud. I cannot speak to its veracity, whether it does it, what it says it does or not. I know Larry Ellison presented it last year around June, but I have not had personal experience with it. So any of my other consulting brethren, please
Tom,
chime
if I could jump in?
Sure.
So I'll just say one thing, it's a little harsh, but I think it's V1. And it's probably enough said, Oracle product release V1. It's a great idea. It's going in the right direction. I don't think it's fully there yet in terms of capability, but certainly a good idea if Oracle's building that out and would help customers move without rewriting everything.
Anyone else have any experience with that? And if not, it's perfectly okay.
Again, I don't have any experience, but I've heard about that. You want to test it out before you consider do a simple not the deployment perspective, but do a test run to see how well that works for you. The challenge is that, again, especially if you have a lot of customizations and configurations, that may not be easily transferable to the processes within the cloud environment. So testing is the key if you consider going in that route.
Okay. Tiffany, any other questions?
Yes, and just we have a comment regarding the SOAR program, and they just said that the SOAR program is a purchasable consulting service from Oracle. The next question that we have, what type of skills are desirable when looking at business analysts and developers for a cloud environment?
Boy, that's a great question. I will put a comment on that. I will tell you, as a consultant and a manager in this industry, good cloud talent is very thin right now, meaning folks that actually know what they're doing. There's certainly a number of resources and firms out there that claim to have cloud knowledge that do not have it. You know, when you're looking for folks, you should certainly interview them, and don't necessarily focus on past references as much as you might have, because a lot of folks can get references relatively easily. But if you're a customer looking for an end consultant or a firm, obviously you're going to do well with an Oracle Platinum partner such as Kest, an Oracle Gold partner such as Creole, that has a proven track record. There's a number of independents out there, but I will tell you my experience trying to hire folks on a regular basis, the talent pool is pretty thin right now. That is my experience. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, this money here. Yeah, go ahead, Alistair.
No, I would just say you need to get somebody that's had experience. Don't get somebody that's not done it, been there and done it before. You can be a great developer and you can get accelerated and get to where you need to be, but you need to have experience in doing the implementation.
Yeah, to that, yeah, definitely 1 or 2 implementations experience is important. But what you want to ask, whether it's individuals you're talking to or the companies, is that what are the differences they see in terms of implementing in the cloud framework, and what challenges they faced specific to cloud implementations, and trying to get insight from what they share is probably would help you to make a judge yourself in terms of whether they're suitable for you or not.
Okay. Well, with that, I have the final slide here. This is the 4 sessions that are coming up. We are going to wrap these sessions up about a week before Open World. We are coming back in 2 weeks with What Does Cloud Mean? Alicia, I think, is going to be leading that one. And then is SaaS an option is in 4 weeks. That's on the 22nd. That should be Mohan Iyer. We have a lift and shift to the cloud. That's going to be Tom Conley. And then we have How Can We Comply in the Cloud. That is going to be led by Hans Colby of Cilantro Systems. So I appreciate everyone's time. As I said, if you did have additional questions and you were not able to get them answered, or you didn't get them asked in time, our email information is here. You can certainly reach out to the OATUG, and Tiffany can certainly put you in contact with one of us. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Tiffany to wrap it up, and thanks everyone for your time today.
Thank you so much to all the panelists for a fantastic session. We really appreciate all of your help in putting this together, and then certainly we appreciate the attendees for attending. If you have any additional questions at this time, we have a couple more minutes. Please go ahead and type your question in the question box. This is your opportunity to have direct access to cloud experts. And we'll wait a few minutes. While we're waiting, we actually do have one that just came in. So we are moving to a new product for Cloud ERP. Is it more beneficial to document your business processes thoroughly for any customizations needed during implementation, or spend more time re-engineering your current process to conform to industry standard? And they're speaking about architecture that reduces version lock. Are there still concerns with customizations with a cloud app?
Yeah, this is Mani here. Let me jump in and answer that. So when I mentioned earlier that business process is the key as part of the Agile implementation, is because as the project size could be pretty big and there are multiple functional areas you're looking at, do you want to first take in terms of in a document, if possible, document your current process? It's not necessarily re-engineering effort, because your re-engineering effort needs to be in the context of the cloud applications you're trying to implement, because of the capabilities that the cloud applications provide and where the gaps are or where you need it to change. If you try to re-engineer before you embark on the cloud applications, what you re-engineered may not fit again into the what cloud applications provide. So document what your current processes are as much as possible so that you can go through a faster implementation time frame, and then try to re-architect those processes that cannot be easily adapted through configuration in the cloud applications.
Tom, can I jump in on the other question?
For Ken, TC.
Sure. I think someone asked about version lock with cloud apps. Two-part answer. In terms of the SaaS applications, the answer is no. The SaaS applications will work as you go through the version releases. There still should be testing to see if there's any functional changes that might impact you. But the real answer is that yes, there's always some element risk of version lock, because if you develop extensions in the PaaS in the platform, those extensions may break. Now, the likelihood of them breaking is much, much lower than when you customize the base code directly, because you're doing that through APIs that Oracle goes through, and all the providers, not just Oracle, go to great lengths to preserve as they upgrade and make changes to their environment. But there will always be a possibility that something that you are trying to transact with will have been modified in one of the point releases. So the ultimate message is you got to test. Can't avoid testing. Like the likelihood of a version lock is much reduced and much more manageable within the cloud architecture.
Yeah, just one more point to that is, again, once you deploy Oracle Cloud applications, you cannot really lock onto any version, because on a quarterly basis, the upgrades are being released by Oracle. What option you have is that they come in 3 different waves. Which wave you want to sign up is something upfront you can determine, but once you determine that, you are locked onto that wave, and those changes keep coming there. So you have to have your process framework in terms of how to test these things based on the Oracle upgrade cycle is an important consideration that you need to adapt into your deployment.
Okay, I have 158. We have any additional questions, Stephanie, or should we let folks go?
We have one more question, actually. So we have 2 more minutes. Explain a little more about PaaS with some examples.
PaaS. So PaaS is Platform as a Service. TC, I'm going to kick this over to you after I just, it's really a development platform. It is, in an Oracle context, it is tools and technologies that allow you to develop your own applications. And those applications can seamlessly integrate with other third-party apps or Oracle Cloud ERP. So I've actually, my firm has developed a number of PaaS-based solutions to do calculations for project accounting outside, and also to bridge some functionality gaps between the standard ERP product and some requirements that we have for some of our customers in the federal space. So it's really robust, and it bridges a lot of gaps. Tom, you're more of a tech head than I am. You want to kind of expand on that?
I would, but you kind of nailed it. It is a development platform. You can use it to develop your own SaaS applications, standalone. Oracle, of course, develops their applications using their own platform. And like you said, you can make extensions. It's the way to extend functionality in baseline packaged applications as opposed to directly coding within those applications. Last thing I'll say is, infrastructure is pretty clear. The 5 elements listed before. SaaS is the application. PaaS is basically anything else. Analytics as a service, integration. If you make it up and it's not it's not infrastructure, it's not software applications, then it's got to be PaaS.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you all for a fantastic presentation again. If you have any questions that you didn't get a chance to post in the question box, the contact information of our panelists is on the screen. We highly encourage you to reach out to those panelists. And also, we encourage you to visit the hub to continue your conversation. I have posted the link in the chat area for the hub. So go ahead and connect connect with experts and users to get the answers you need for the most burning questions. This concludes another great e-learning session, which is an OATUG member benefit. Everyone enjoy the rest of their day. Thanks.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, Tom, for hosting the sessions, and appreciate it.
No, thank you.